Man, I'm off my game today.
It's fine. We've been in quarantine for like 6 weeks.
I don't know. You know, like it's impressive with Squirrel Girl the amount of like yourself, like you're talking about abstracting things. You know, you and Ryan basically had to reinvent her. You know, not to
Yeah.
say some stuff there to work with, but it's a very different character than it was before you started. You know, I think like you can very clearly point to the success of it based on what you guys built, and I think a lot of what makes it work is like the things that you both care about are present. I don't know where I'm going with this, other than maybe complimenting.
I mean, thank you. But also, yeah, I think it goes back to like not trying to worry about what other people want. Like Ryan put in all of this like real world computer programming stuff. And for people who don't know it, it's just like it's the same as when you put in fake computer programming stuff. Like it's part of the plot. It's gonna be there anyway. It doesn't really matter. But for people who know it, they get so excited. And I think there's some of that where it's like we put in the stuff that we're excited about, and then people respond because we're not the only ones who care about these things.
Yeah.
And that extends into what the character's about. Like we were excited about being able to tell a superhero story where it's not just about hitting someone in the face, even though there are parts where people get hit in the face because it just happens sometimes. That's the nature of the game. But people liked that. They responded to it. We're like, hey, cool, this thing that you wanted to do. Like people liked it. That's great.
I get exactly what you mean, because I oftentimes would be like, oh, you could just make that up or whatever. But I'm the exact opposite of that, because sports comics, you know, Southern Bastard's a perfect example. I go to such great lengths to make sure that they're running real plays, and like the linemen look like linemen, and like, you know, all this stuff that I know half the audience or 2/3 or 3/4 of the audience doesn't give a shit about or doesn't know about.
Right.
But to me, it's like I think you can recognize it. When I was working on,
I agree. There's things like books that I have a lot of like nonfiction books, but I love them because you can tell the person writing about the thing is so into that thing, and it's exciting. Yeah, I think there's just like another level, like you're saying, where you can tell something's real, like when someone who's 70 is writing like an NCIS and there's hacking, and you're like, okay, I've never hacked a computer, but you have clearly made this up, and it is embarrassing.
it's a weird balance between like what you will accept as real and what you will accept as what you would like get away, let slide. And I think you said it perfectly, that the it's the ask at the beginning. You know, it's the ask and then the commitment to the ask.
Right.
You know? But there are certain genres, you know, and that it comes in certain instances where it comes down to execution. You know, like when I was going to say, when I did Sledgehammer 44, I ended up having to do an insane amount of research about World War II stuff just to get close. Because whenever I would draw like just a plain GI, you would be like, that looks fake. Like
Yeah.
that doesn't like that. It just
It looks like you got something from a store.
Yeah, exactly. It was like a Halloween costume, and it was a. So I ended up having to commit to all these things I don't really care about before I started. I just thought like, oh, it'll be fun to draw a World War II comic, and I couldn't allow myself to go full. I mean, Jack Kirby's a bad example because he fought in it. So even if he was like
Right,
making
he knew.
up, he knew. You know?
Yeah, I had a similar thing. The book I'm doing right now is with Alex DeCampi, and it takes place in the 70s. And so there's a thing where if you want to get something to feel right, you can't just be drawing what's in the catalogs. That's what I can find pictures of the 70s. Because like our main character is like behind on his rent and all his bills. Like he's not gonna have the newest TV. So like, what am I looking up? What's a TV that in like 1973 says this is a real shitbox.
Yeah.
Like, why do I dress a guy who should look kind of cool but is also poor? Like, he needs to look professional, but he also has a lot of money, and also it's from an era before I was born, so I was never there, and also it's specific to LA.
That's where your taste and your craft like meet, right? Because like it's your judgment and your opinion and what you're into, but it's like got this parameter of your craft around it, you know. And then I guess you choose where you jump that fence and why and all that kind of stuff.
Right. Certain level, like part of you wonders, like, how much of this do people care about?
Oh yeah.
But then, if you care about it, then you have to do it.
I would have never watched this in my own accord, really, because I'm not really super into Disney stuff. But I watched some of that Imagineering show. I learned all this new stuff about his ambition that was really impressive and also kind of absurd. Because it's like,
he was insane.
Yes, like this maniac builds Disneyland because he can't build a park for his kids to play in his hometown. But the part where he had a warehouse full of giant rubber dinosaurs was just like, I just kept thinking about, like, what if your dad had to go to work every day at this, like, you know, or like if he fails at the end, all he's got is a giant warehouse full of dinosaurs. It's insane. And also, like, I kind of find it the most romantic and endearing thing I've ever heard about Walt Disney. You know?
Yeah. Yeah. No, I agree. Like, I love that there's something very relatable, I think, to comic artists where we're doing this thing that, like, is actively destructive to us but can't stop doing it. I think it's very relatable.
The other crazy thing in that video is that goddamn Lincoln robot.
I loved watching the guy do weird robot motions because he knew that it couldn't do better than that, so he had to, like, design awkward motions. That was so cool, was thinking about it in that kind of way, where he knows it can only do this much, but it's recording him, and he's doing, like, shitty early mocap for a thing that can barely move.
Imagine what if, you know how, like, you do something like over and over again, your muscle memory kind of repeats it. Imagine that guy going home at the end of the day with, like, just open the refrigerator and stuff. Sorry, he his wife divorces him. I love the man before Lincoln. Didn't the thing get hit by lightning or something? Like the building get hit by lightning during the first. Maybe I just want that to be what happens. It's short.
God was so offended that we were trying to make our own humans. Tried to strike him down.
It's that, or I just conflated it with the plot of Short Circuit. And then I guess the last thought is, and this is not a leading pandemic question, because Lord, I don't want to leave on a sad note. But how do you maintain it now? You know, like, how do you get up every day and say, like, I'm still passionate about what I'm doing?
I mean, these days it's weirder, like we were saying, everything's kind of up in the air. But you know, at a certain point, you just want to do it. There have been more days lately where I'm just doing other things because I just need to, like, do those other things. Mostly, it's just I want to do it. I can't pick a project that I'm not interested in because I know I'll never want to work on it, and it will just be difficult to get out of bed and do it. So at a certain level, like, I'm only doing things that I want to do, and so that's really it. Like, I want to do it.
Yeah, I've found recently that a big thing for me has been, like, with this pandemic stuff is I'm just weirdly I just feel this pressure to sort of like do it now in a way that I'm like, well, if the days are limited, I put all this time into it. Like,
Right.
I'm not gonna like give up now. Um, and that's a conflicting feeling with the idea of like, you know, I want to enjoy life, too. But we're fenced in now, so I don't really know.
That's true. There's not other things you can do. You're just doing this one thing that has to happen inside.
Right? It's like not like I can go see the ninth wonder of the world right now,
Yeah.
um,
And for me it's just I feel like right now I'm feeling like I have the ability to do other things that I want to do that are creative. I feel like most of the time I have this problem. I know other people do too, where because we do a creative job, there are other creative things I want to do, but in my head I'm like, no, creative time is work time. You can't like
yes,
figure out this kind of painting. You can't like work on that because that's fun time, and fun time's reserved for like this time where you're doing this other thing. And I've broken down that barrier lately. I've been the past few days making this insane mask. Uh, but like I've taken on some commissions, which I don't normally do, but gives me an excuse to like do watercolors.
yeah,
So I've just it's broken down that barrier in my head because I'm like, fuck it, there are no rules. As long as you're doing some kind of work, it's good, and as long as you're not behind on this deadline, it's still fine. So
right. I mean, you're talking to the person that makes this thing, right? And like that was one of the reasons why I started making this. I think that anything will become drudgery if you do it too long, or you feel the expectation to achieve a certain thing with it.
yeah,
So it's important to find places where you can experiment, even if it's like you said, where the experiment doesn't even look that much different than what you're doing for work.
yeah,
It's the mental
but
hurdle,
it feels different, yeah.
right?
And like, it's funny because the comics for work, for not work for Patreon, require more work because I have to like write them and lay them out and draw them, and they're more simple. But like the actual work ones, like I've already penciled and done like rough colors on everything. I literally just have to trace over my own drawings, which are very tight, and then put the color on slightly better. It's already there. It's the easiest part of it. And there's like 5 pages left. But I just was like, gotta do something else for a little bit.
Yeah,
It's not gonna be as good if I like force my way through.
right. Yeah. Well, to bring it back to RoboCop, you have to find the part of you that's human in the
True.
machine. I don't know. I don't know any other way to end it other than that lame.
I mean, it had to come back to RoboCop at some point.
Oh, youngin'!